Hi there. I just wanted to add something about thoughts that have been going through my mind regarding Lucy Letby case and the inquests that are coming up. Really odd, well, not timing on both. Well, okay, so they're not going to charge her. Well, supposedly so far not going to charge her with the ridiculous Liverpool Women Hospital investigation, but also these inquests now for some of the babies. Think about this right now, okay? All throughout, we've heard over and over from all the narrative has gone, about the families, dragging, terrible, Lady Thirlwell, wasn't it terrible? We're dragging this all up for the families, and it's all about the families. I know, don't get me wrong, I'm not, I'm sure the families have had a terrible time, but we're supposed to think that Lucy doesn't matter because of all the families and everything they're going through, right? Well, so why, at this stage in the game, years and years after these babies have died, are they now doing inquests? Because they care so much about the families, don't they? I mean, what's that going to do to the families? Bring this all up. I mean, any of you, I've been in inquests, right? I was in an inquest for my partner's suicide, an inquest for my brother, and it drags everything up, even if it's 2 years afterwards. This is years afterwards, right? So the process of the inquest will drag everything up again for these families. So why? Okay, I thought we were supposed to know that Lucy had murdered the babies or it's a blood. Okay, fine, maybe. Okay, now I know there is doubt. Obviously we know that it was all rubbish and that's all been shown. Okay, but the problem is the timing. It seems suspicious to me. This whole, and one of the reasons it seems suspicious is because the inquest, if an inquest is held, and I just double checked this after someone's been convicted for murder, because normally this wouldn't happen. I mean, there's, the convictions happened, the supposedly murdered X amount of babies. There was 13, wasn't there, and 6, 7, and attempted murders and murders, right? So this has already been established in a court of law, and Lucy is in prison. Now, we know that's, there's a possible, she's been denied an appeal and it's going through the CCRC, but that's how it stands at the moment. So if there's in the inquest for these babies, right, they're not allowed, the coroner can't come to any other conclusion. What an inquest is there to do is to find out when, where, who died and how that happened, right? It's just answering those questions. Well, I don't think there's any doubt over when, where, and who, even though we're not allowed to know these babies' names, but they know, don't they? And when, where, and who, right? So we're left with how, which is the means, okay? So so it's more that it's not so when we're talking about means, it's like things like you got to establish how the babies died. So it's not that they were murdered, but it's the how did they die. So that's what we got. The story we've got at the moment is what air embolism and this and insulin poisoning. They have to come to that same conclusion on the means of death, right? So and presumably they can't then say, well, that was it's somebody else who committed the murders because Lucy's in prison for the murder, and they've got to come up with the same. They can't at the inquest, they can't do anything which will disagree with the trial verdict of the jury, right? So why would they do that now when we know there's the CCRC are investigating and thing? And I know. Okay, so this case is, everything about it is corrupt. Everything about it. I've written about the esoteric side of this case, about the Jim Archer involved, the symbolism, the astrology involved. Now, not everyone's going to agree with me on that, but I'd say read my articles before you disagree with me, because I'm open to debate, but I've looked into this very deeply. And I believe that Lucy's Capricorn, by the way, and she's in Western astrology, she's Capricorn, or if you look at it in Vedic astrology, she's Sagittarius by her birthday. Capricorn is the scapegoat, it's the Zazzle. She's the scapegoat, she's scapegoat. She's also, her name, Lucy Letby, It's the same as let there be light. Lucy, let be, is let there be light. In Hebrew, Lucy is Uriel. And look into her Hebrew name, because that's the archangel Uriel. And I'm not going to go into all that now, because I've written about all this. And the meaning of Uriel in the book of Enoch, because it's not in the canonical scriptures. It's that archangel isn't part of the canon in the canon, but it's in the book of Enoch. It's all linked with the book of Enoch. We know how they are. I mean, the Nazi Party used a lot of astrology, but so do our elites. Okay, they're always using astrology. They're using, this is what they do in, Masonic, in the lodges, all this stuff, geometric astrology. I've written all about it. I'm not going to go into it now because it's in depth, but if you look on Substack, my articles, what's in a name, I think there was a bit in foul something or foul play I wrote on Substack. I might put links. There's so much to this. Okay, note that Lucy was convicted at age 33. The age that Jesus supposedly, I mean, don't have to be a believer. I'm not, it's not a point. It's about the codification in the Bible and the Bible code and the astrology in the Bible and other texts. 33 is the age that Jesus, okay, so the same age, that Jesus was sacrificed. So, he did his ministry, didn't he, for 3 years from 30 till age 33, and then on the cross. And that's no accident. There was a lot of 33s, by the way, in the trial, and there's lots more about the numbers here, and I can't go into all that again because I've written about it all, but I am very suspicious. What are they doing now? Is this all good for Lucy? Because although it might seem good that, we're having inquests on this, but if they've got to come to the same conclusion as to the means of death, how the babies died, then that might you see, if there's a jury at this inquest, and I think these inquests, because there's several, isn't there, there's going to have to be, I mean, inquest is supposed to be public, not the pre-hearing, but the actual inquest would be public, coroner's court, right? So there's not always a jury, but some inquests there will be a jury, and if it's like a suspicious death in prison or a death, suspicious death in someone's under section in hospital, like for instance with my partner, then you will have a jury, right, at the inquest. Now, I think this will probably happen in this case. The judge will arrange for a jury. The coroner will have a jury will be at the inquest. And because although the deaths weren't in prison, they were in an NHS hospital, and this is a high-profile case, and the judge can, I think, decide to have a jury because they were suspicious deaths in a hospital. So absolutely, there will very likely could be a jury. Although I know they're trying to get rid of juries. We'll see what happens, but I think they may. I mean, as long as they can drag this out, they will. And I think what they'll do is, because they care so much about the families, don't they? Dragging them through, say they love they're so caring towards the families. I mean, what a bizarre way to conduct things, to go through whole murder trials, not bother with inquests before, have all the pathologists explain how the babies were died of natural causes, and then wait till all this has been done in the trials and attempts to appeal and another trial on baby K, and then let's do all the inquests at the end of that to find out what happened. Yeah, right. And do the so it's just really not normal way of doing things, and it stinks. And I don't. Part of me was thinking maybe it could be good because, maybe it will look like they're trying to look again at what happened and like it's not been established. But if they've got to come to the same conclusion, what's that going to do in the public mind? That's going to think, well, hang on, if there's a jury at the inquest and they come to the same conclusion that the juries have come to at the trial, that's not going to look good, is it? And is this a cynical ploy to reinforce in the public? Because they know that the public are now waking up to this. Those of us who've been here all along, okay, but the wider public who aren't particularly interested in the case will have started to hear, many of them, because it's been a lot. Some of them will have started to go in. And what that could then again turn people back and think, oh, well, here's a jury at the inquest, and they found that, these babies died by poisoning or air embolism or whatever. And obviously they've dropped apparently they've dropped it. I mean, I don't know whether anyone's going to challenge the dropping of the other babies that they were trying to fit her up with, whether that's been challenged by the police and the lawyer. I think it was the lawyer for the children, that the babies, one of the lawyers for the parents, that forget his name, that was, would be the claimant, who brought that, you know, who's bringing that, after the words gone out of my head for a minute what I'm talking about, but you know what I'm saying, who would be in a position to then challenge that decision, right? So, yeah, anyway, the whole thing is just, I don't know, I find it suspicious. Because the CCRC are going to drag their feet, aren't they? And as long as they can, and this will just allow them to drag it further. I mean, the other thing that could happen is the CCRC could suddenly jump up and do this all quickly like they should do because of the public interest, because of, you know, when they use public interest to suit them, but when it's to suit justice, they don't want to use it, do they? But they could use the public interest to hurry this case right up. And you know, as in faith in the bloody criminal justice system, which I don't think anyone with half a brain has got anymore. So, because we don't have a justice system, not that actually works. So, yeah, they could use it. So, I think it could happen. They could hurry it up, and then the inquest could, if the CCR hurried it up and Lucy got an appeal or retrial or whatever, and she was exonerated, then the inquest could maybe be useful to re-establish, because the Thirlwell report, I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous, isn't it? That as well, well, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I mean, you know, anyway, so there you go. But it's all corrupt. Okay, and I've never had any doubt that it was corrupt, and, you know, dark forces were working here right from the beginning, and Lucy is being treated as a sacrificial lamb here as such. She's Capricorn scapegoat. She's and a lot of 6s and 7s are involved, and different numbers in gematria. You have to read my articles on that, and on Uriel and what it means, and the gematria, and the names in Hebrew and stuff like that. There's very deep stuff going on with this case that isn't just about the NHS cover-up. It's much deeper than that, I believe, and to do with the justice system itself, with everything they're trying to do at the moment, getting rid of jurors, because that's another thing they want to do. And I think this case will be used, as I've always said, to help say, look, jurors just aren't competent. You know, they get it wrong, because then it's not, we know it's not the jurors' fault in this case. It was the fact that they were lied to and misled. But you know, because it's not just about they may not understand it. You don't have to understand anything. You know, that you could say, we could say it was a fact that all these babies, for instance, died of poisoning or this or that, but there's still no evidence that Lucy did that. So you still got to prove that the person who you can say, oh, this will happen, but you've got to prove that she did it, and that wasn't done. And so the jury don't even need to really understand all that. They need to understand that there was no, to where is the link with Lucy? Where is the evidence? Where's there any evidence that she did anything? You know. But if they're misled by statistics and stuff like that, anyway. So yeah, that's concerning me, and I just see if there's anything else that I just wanted to. Yeah, I mean, in an inquest, so that the coroner will he can make recommendations. That's one thing that he can do after an inquest, and he could make recommendations as to what should happen. Going forward in COCH in the hospital, you know, he could order various whatever to be. I mean, the changes have to be made there. I mean, I don't know if he could order it to be shut down as such. It's late for that, a bit late. I don't know what's going on there now, but he could order changes to be made there. But that's a bit late, isn't it? But I mean, yeah, as I say, they care so much about the families that they're just about to drag it all up again in inquests, you know. And it's a shame that we can't. I mean, I don't have the ability to speak widely, but if anyone does and they can get their voice out on their Twitter, please point this out, how much they care about the families. They're always their excuse. Yeah, and I would look at but the esoteric side of this case is definitely a thing, and the interference, Goss as another one that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he tried the Carl Beach case, which is a weird one. And he's also the only judge that, and I put this in one of my articles before, that has ever sort of, as far as I know, dismissed the jury and tried the case himself, claiming that the jury were corrupt or something. Well, it's him that's, you know, words have to look into that. But yeah, I mean, it's, and, you know, just, and there were, when Lucy was convicted, there were 7 planets in retrograde. 7 planets in retrograde. And she's Venus symbolism. So Uriel again sees would be the dark side of the morning star Venus, and you got the even star, the falling star, and the fallen angel again. Uriel, archangels, angels symbolic of nurses in the NHS, with 7 planets in retrograde at the time. And I noticed that time of her trial that's really rare to have 7 planets at the same time in retrograde. And there was a lot of 40s coming up as well, and 40 days and 40 nights. Venus goes in retrograde. That's about Venus in retrograde for 40 days. So Lucy again will be that, like Diana, like the goddess Artemis. Lucy is a symbol of Venus as well. So, and I think that she's definitely being used as a kind of pawn in this game on a higher level. Okay, so it's not just, there's lots of levels to this, but there always are. You know, there's when we're talking about the dark arts, there's shades of this and shades of this and a little bit of here, and it's all levels and levels and levels, and it's all like Palantir that now was put in charge of the actual whole dashboard for the NHS, and it's all over the internet, and it grabs things from here and there, and, you know, so he knows everything about all of us. Palantir, I mean, it's the reason they named it Palantir is because it's the Palantiri were the seeing stones in Lord of the Rings, and that's what that symbolizes. That's why they called it Palantir, I can assure you. It's because it's the Palantiri symbolized. So they don't actually lie, right? The seeing stones, the Palantiri in Lord of the Rings, but they present things in such a way that they will create a picture which will kind of mislead. And that's what Palantir is all about. Okay, it grabs all this data and then it uses it for its own purposes, to mislead and whatever, you know. And so I don't know how I got onto Palantiri, but it's the whole thing with the NHS. It's the NHS data board. That there's some very dark stuff going on, and we are still in Agenda 2130. So the 10 years started at the 10 years started in 2020 with the whole lockdown, COVID, crazy situation. That was all deliberate, and that plan was started in 2020, and it's going on to 2030. And that's why we've got all these the AI large language models coming out, chat GDP and all that. It's all part of this. And you know, it's everything that's happened for this 10 years is planned, I can assure you. All the wars and stuff that are happening, planned. All the nut stuff that's happening, like sort of people kidnapped, the presidents of Venezuela sort of suddenly kidnapped, and weird stuff, and threats to war here with these places, war in, you know, the problems in the Middle East and all this sort of stuff's all planned. You know, the Ukraine thing, all part of this 10-year, and we're going up to the singularity, which is what they call about in 2030 is when they say, Ray Kurzweil, who's a futurist, he always used to say that is the time when we cannot predict what is going to happen beyond. Okay, so they're saying with AI they can't predict. Actually, I don't believe them. Okay, I think they are in control of AI and they know exactly what they're doing. It's not intelligent. It doesn't reason. That's for another thing, because to go into that now. But it's, you know, it hasn't got emotion. It doesn't have a mind. But these are just data. They just predict the next bit of data. You know what I mean? They know what's going to happen. They say they would never let go control of the internet. It's DARPA, Defense Intelligence. So they say that the singularity, when they don't know what's going to, they can't predict beyond 2030. Well, yeah, what they mean is we can't predict. We don't know what's going to happen, but they've got it all planned, right, at the top. And I just think Lucy Letby is part of this. I mean, I honestly think this case is part of this whole Agenda 2130. It's about getting rid of juries. It's about, I mean, maybe they won't have juries in the inquest. Maybe they'll just find a way. They won't do that, and they'll do it without. But either way, I think this timing is in these inquests with these babies is suspicious to me. I'm not sure that this is a good idea good for Lucy. Do you know what I mean? At all, because they're just going to reinforce what was, unless CCR suddenly suddenly actually start moving and doing something quickly, which I don't know. And it seems like, I doubt it, Mark MacDonald has wanted to be, I think, Lucy to be represented. He wants to represent Lucy in these baby's inquests, and I think that's being blocked or something. So the whole thing. Anyway, look, I better leave it there, but don't dismiss the dark side of this whole thing. Because this is, you only have to look at this case to know that there's something wrong here. You could not. There's so much that's gone on, suspicious stuff that's gone on that, you just couldn't not think there's something very dodgy about this whole thing. And I think it goes a lot wider than just Cancer of Chester Hospital. There's a lot of dark stuff now in the NHS, and a lot of dark stuff in the courts and everywhere, and it's all intensifying. I mean, they're playing out bits of Revelations as well, because that's all deliberate. It's Revelations plays out over and over again in history. It's not just something that just happens once. It's played time and time and time again. It's the end of an era, so you get all this symbolism coming in with Revelations. And you don't have to be a Christian to understand that there's a lot of symbolism in the Bible, in the Hebrew text, and it's in the Quran as well, and in the New Testament. Symbolism is everywhere, and it's all tied up with gematria and numbers and sacred geometry, and how, which is what Masonry is about. Really, sacred geometry and astrology. So this is all tied. They tie it in with everything. It's in everything at the top of society. Okay, and it wasn't just the Nazis that followed astrology. They're all doing it at the top. Even the stock markets are even based on the stars and stuff like that. Okay, so that they know when they get their bear markets and this and that. It's all based. They're basing it at the top level on astrology. I mean, I just take one look at what's his name from the WEF. I can't remember his name now. That guy that's always wearing sort of spacesuit thing. Oh, God, what's his name? He's got some sort of, it sounds German name. He's Swiss or something, but he's, from the WEF. Just look at him, mate. I mean, you can just tell by looking at him what he's, I shouldn't judge by appearances, but what he wears, I mean, I can't think of his name now. You'd know if I said it. It's the one that's supposed to have said, you will learn nothing and you will be happy. He didn't actually say that. He was misquoted, but he wrote just as much. That's what he means. We're not supposed to own anything anymore. We're supposed to just rent everything. Klaus Schwab, yeah, he's sort of alien space wear or whatever. I mean, yeah, anyhow. All right, I better go. But yeah, please, if anyone's got any ideas on that, if you disagree with me, fine, say so on the inquest stuff. But and if you're not into the astrology or the thing, please read my articles on that, What's in a Name, and on Substack, and what's the other one? I don't know, I'll put a link below. I think there was a bit in Foul Play or Foul Water, all on the Letby case, where I went deep into the astrology and the numbers, all the 33s that were turning up, and the 40s that were turning up, and the thirds, 22s, and the 2/3 of 33, and the thirds of 33, 11s, and all the numbers that were coming up in the amounts of it was bizarre, and it was obviously very deliberate. But you'd have to read the articles and the look at the decoding of the names. All right, okay, I'm gonna go now. It's time for bed, I think, maybe. Not quite, maybe, but anyway. Yeah, okay, good night.